My name is Olivia Reynolds, and at 24, I never imagined my parents would throw me out into the cold while I carried twins. Not just any babies, but the heirs to the Montgomery fortune. Nathan Montgomery, tech billionaire, and the love I thought would last forever, vanished when I needed him most. My own parents chose to believe a stranger's lies over their daughter's truth. They had no idea that their decision would lead to their financial ruin, or that one day they would stand on my doorstep begging for forgiveness. Before I share my story, I would love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like and subscribe button as I take you on my journey from rock bottom to finding my strength. I grew up in a comfortable middle-class home in suburban Chicago. My childhood was filled with weekend barbecues, holiday traditions, and the kind of security that comes from knowing exactly where you belong. My father, Robert, worked as an investment manager at a respected firm, while my mother, Diana, served as an administrator at the local high school. They were respected in our community, church-going people who took pride in their reputation for integrity and good judgment. Our home wasn't lavish, but it was always well-maintained. My parents believed in living slightly below their means to ensure my sister and I would have college funds and opportunities they never had. Their expectations were high, but I never minded. I actually thrived under their guidance, earning top grades and participating in everything from debate club to volleyball. My relationship with my parents had always been one of mutual respect. We disagreed at times, but there was an unspoken understanding that family loyalty came first. At least, that's what I believed until everything fell apart. Olivia, we didn't sacrifice for 20 years just so you could settle for mediocrity, my father would say whenever I considered taking an easier path. His voice, always firm but encouraging, helped shape my ambition. My younger sister, Melissa, was 19 and still finding her way. She had chosen art school against our parents' wishes, but they had eventually come around when they saw her talent. Despite our 5-year age gap, Melissa looked up to me with an admiration that sometimes felt undeserved. We shared late-night conversations about dreams and fears, and she trusted me with secrets she would never tell our parents. "Livy, you literally make adulting look easy," she told me once. "When I grow up, I want to be you." If only she knew how those words would haunt me later. After graduating with a business degree from Northwestern, I landed a coveted internship at Montgomery Innovations, one of the fastest-growing tech companies in the country. The selection process had been grueling, with over 3,000 applicants vying for just 15 positions. When I received the acceptance email, my parents hosted a small celebration dinner. My father uncorked a special bottle of wine he had been saving, and my mother prepared all my favorite foods. "This is just the beginning," my mother said, raising her glass. "The Reynolds women always reach for the stars." I still remember my first day at Montgomery Innovations. The headquarters occupied a renovated industrial building with exposed brick walls, glass offices, and an energy that hummed through the air. I was assigned to the product development team, tasked with market research and competitive analysis. The work was challenging but exhilarating. 3 weeks into my internship, I had my first encounter with Nathan Montgomery himself. I was carrying a tray of coffee for a team meeting when someone rounded the corner too quickly. The collision sent coffee splashing across an impeccably tailored suit. Looking up in horror, I found myself staring into the steel-blue eyes of the 30-year-old tech genius whose face graced Business Magazine's monthly. "Mr. Montgomery, I am so sorry," I stammered, frantically searching for napkins. I expected anger or at least irritation. Instead, he laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a genuine laugh that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Well, this is one way to make an impression," he said, accepting the handful of napkins I offered. "And please call me Nathan. Mr. Montgomery is my father, and trust me, you don't want to confuse us." Something in his tone when he mentioned his father caught my attention. A slight edge that hinted at complications I couldn't yet understand. Nathan insisted I stop apologizing and instead join him for coffee to replace what had been spilled. What I expected to be a 5-minute courtesy conversation turned into an hour-long discussion about everything from market trends to our shared love of classic science fiction. He was nothing like his ruthless business reputation suggested. In person, Nathan was thoughtful, quick-witted, and surprisingly down-to-earth. In the weeks that followed, our paths crossed more frequently. I noticed him stopping by my department, asking for my input during team presentations, and occasionally leaving articles on my desk that related to conversations we had shared. My colleagues whispered about the special attention, some with envy, others with suspicion. "Be careful around Montgomery," warned Marcus, his executive assistant. "He can be charming, but everything is strategic with him." I dismissed the warnings, believing I understood Nathan better than they did. When my internship converted to a full-time position after just 2 months, I told myself it was based solely on merit. Our late nights working on project deadlines gradually shifted into something more personal. Conversations extended beyond work into hopes, fears, and childhood memories. He told me about growing up in his father's shadow, the pressure of the Montgomery name, and his vision for technology that would genuinely improve lives rather than just generate profit. The first kiss happened after the company celebrated a major acquisition. Most employees had already left the rooftop celebration when Nathan found me looking out at the city skyline. "You know what I like about you, Olivia," he said, standing close enough that I could smell his cologne. "You see me, not the name or the bank account." When his lips met mine, it felt like the most natural progression imaginable. The night air was cool, the distant city lights twinkled, and something significant shifted between us. Nathan was careful from the beginning. "My personal life is complicated," he explained. "My father has expectations about who I should be with, and there are family dynamics that make dating difficult. Can we keep this between us for now?" I agreed without hesitation. The secrecy even added a certain thrill to our relationship. We had private dinners in secluded restaurants, weekend getaways to places where we wouldn't be recognized, and stolen moments in his private office. Despite the constraints, those 3 months were filled with a connection that felt profound and real. My best friend, Zoe, was the only person who knew. She had pieced it together after noticing changes in my behavior and confronted me during one of our weekly brunches. "Dating the boss is career suicide 101, she warned, stirring her mimosa. "Especially one with his reputation. Please tell me you know what you're doing." "He is different than people think," I insisted. "What we have is real." Zoe's skeptical expression should have been my first warning. My parents noticed the changes too. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the weekends when I was vague about my whereabouts. They asked questions that I deflected, creating distance where there had once been transparency. "You seem different lately," my mother observed one Sunday dinner. "Is everything all right at work?" "Just busy with a big project," I replied, avoiding her eyes. "Everything is fine." Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact night everything changed. Nathan had invited me to his penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan. He had prepared dinner himself, a surprisingly skilled effort at coq au vin that we enjoyed with an expensive burgundy. Afterward, as we lay tangled in his sheets, he traced patterns on my bare shoulder and spoke of future possibilities. "Sometimes I think about walking away from it all," he confessed. "Starting something new, somewhere my father's influence doesn't reach." "Would you really do that?" I asked, studying his face in the dim light. "With the right reason?" "Yes." His eyes held mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "I need to go out of town for a few days. Business in Singapore. When I get back, there is something important I want to discuss with you." The memory of his kiss that night would sustain me through the darkness that followed. It was the last time I saw him before everything fell apart. The first wave of nausea hit me during a morning meeting 3 days after Nathan left for Singapore. I excused myself, barely making it to the bathroom before emptying my stomach. Sitting on the cold tile floor, I chalked it up to a stomach bug, but a small voice whispered other possibilities. When the same thing happened the next day, and then the next, I could no longer ignore the calendar in my head. I purchased a pregnancy test during my lunch break, hands shaking as I paid the drugstore cashier. The women's restroom on the 14th floor was always empty during the lunch hour. I locked myself in the farthest stall, following the instructions with trembling fingers. 2 pink lines appeared almost immediately. I stared at them, emotions colliding like storm fronts.
Fear, joy, panic,
Wonder. A baby. Nathan's baby. Our baby. I pressed a hand to my still flat stomach, trying to comprehend the new reality growing inside me. Whatever Nathan wanted to discuss when he returned, this would certainly change the conversation. I imagined his reaction, hoping for joy but preparing for shock. We had been careful, but clearly not careful enough. I will tell him as soon as he gets back, I whispered to myself, carefully wrapping the test in toilet paper and burying it deep in the trash. But Nathan did not return as scheduled. My texts went unanswered, calls went straight to voicemail. When I casually asked his assistant about the Singapore trip, Marcus gave me a strange look. Mr. Montgomery extended his trip. That is all I can say, he replied, his tone making it clear that further questions would not be welcomed. Days stretched into a week. My morning sickness worsened, and hiding it at work became increasingly difficult. I created excuses for my frequent bathroom trips and sudden aversions to office coffee, all while constantly checking my phone for messages that never came. Then the news broke. Financial irregularities had been discovered at Montgomery Innovations. The stock plummeted 23% in a single day. Business channels ran constant coverage, speculating about potential fraud within the company. Nathan's face was suddenly everywhere, but he himself was nowhere to be found. I was at my desk when a colleague gasped at something on her screen. "Oh my God, look at this." She turned her monitor to show a Society page article. The headline read, "Tech heir Nathan Montgomery and socialite Victoria Sinclair make rare public appearance amid company troubles." The photo showed Nathan in a tuxedo beside a stunning blonde woman in an elegant gown, his hand resting intimately on the small of her back. The caption identified her as Victoria Sinclair, his fiancée of 2 years. 2 years. While I had known him for barely 6 months. "I thought he was single," my colleague remarked. "They have kept it pretty quiet. Apparently, she is some kind of banking heiress." The room spun around me. I mumbled something about needing air and fled to the emergency stairwell, where I sat with my head between my knees, fighting waves of nausea that had nothing to do with pregnancy. In the days that followed, more photos emerged. Nathan and Victoria at charity galas, on yachts, at family events. All dated within the time I had been seeing him. All showing a world he had never invited me into. Victoria Sinclair was everything I was not. The daughter of a banking dynasty, she had attended Swiss boarding schools, spoke 4 languages, and moved effortlessly through high society. Her Instagram showed a life of private jets, exclusive parties, and old money connections. She was tall, impossibly elegant, and looked like she had never spilled coffee on anyone in her life. My desperate attempts to contact Nathan grew more frantic. I sent emails, left voicemails, even waited outside his apartment building until security asked me to leave. With each passing day, the reality of my situation became clearer. I was pregnant, alone, and apparently had been nothing more than a diversion to a man who was engaged to someone else. When I finally gathered the courage to go to his office directly, Marcus intercepted me at the elevator. "Mr. Montgomery is not available," he stated firmly. "I need to speak with him." "It is urgent," I insisted, trying to step around him. "Ms. Reynolds." His voice dropped to a whisper. "This is not a good time. There are serious issues happening with the company. Whatever you think you had with Nathan, I strongly suggest you move on."
You do not understand.
"I have to tell him something important." Marcus sighed. "He knows you have been trying to reach him. If he wanted to speak with you, he would have returned your calls." When I refused to leave, security was called. The humiliation of being escorted from the building, former colleagues watching with curious eyes, burned like acid. That evening, my parents were waiting when I returned home. They sat stiffly in the living room, the television tuned to a business channel still discussing the Montgomery Innovation scandal. My father's firm had invested significant client money in the company, and his face showed the strain of the past few days. "Olivia," my father began, his voice unnaturally controlled. "Is there something you need to tell us about your relationship with Nathan Montgomery?" My heart hammered against my ribs. "What do you mean?" Do not play dumb, my mother snapped. We have noticed your strange behavior for months. The late nights, the secretive phone calls. And now this scandal. Are you involved with him? I considered lying, but exhaustion and morning sickness had worn down my defenses. We were seeing each other, but it is complicated. Complicated? My father's voice rose. The man is engaged to Victoria Sinclair. Has been for years. And now there are rumors of financial impropriety that could ruin countless investors, including clients whose accounts I manage. I did not know about the engagement, I said, tears welling in my eyes. He never told me. My mother's disappointment was palpable. How could you be so naive? Men like that do not seriously date girls like us. You are never going to be more than a distraction. Her words cut deeper than she could know. Because despite everything, I had believed Nathan's feelings were genuine. And now I carried his child, a reality I was not yet ready to share with my parents. Later that night, Melissa found me crying in my room. She slipped in quietly, sitting beside me on the bed. That bad, huh? She asked, passing me a tissue. I looked at my little sister, her eyes full of concern without judgment, and the truth spilled out. About Nathan, the relationship, and finally, the pregnancy. Oh, Livy, she whispered, pulling me into a tight hug. What are you going to do? I do not know yet. But I cannot tell Mom and Dad, not with everything else happening. Promise me you will keep this secret? Melissa nodded solemnly. I promise. Whatever you need, I am here. Having her support meant everything, especially as my world continued to unravel. I did not realize then how soon that support would be tested, or how drastically our family would be torn apart. I had just returned from my first prenatal appointment, the printout of my ultrasound hidden in my purse, when Melissa texted me. Come home now. Emergency. Racing home, I found a sleek black car parked in our driveway that I did not recognize. Inside our living room sat my parents and a woman whose face I had seen only in photographs, Victoria Sinclair. She wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary, her blonde hair pulled into an elegant chignon. When she saw me, her perfectly painted lips curved into what might have passed for a smile if it had reached her eyes. There she is, Victoria said, her voice cultured and cool. I was just explaining the situation to your parents. My mother's face was ashen, my father's flushed with anger. Melissa stood in the corner, her expression a warning I could not yet decipher. What situation? I asked, my hand instinctively moving toward my stomach before I caught myself. Victoria's eyes tracked the movement. Please sit down, Olivia. This concerns you directly. Over the next 30 minutes, Victoria methodically destroyed my life with surgical precision. She explained to my parents that I had a history of pursuing wealthy men in positions of power, that I had apparently done this at previous jobs, though I had managed to keep it off my record, that I had targeted Nathan from my first day at Montgomery Innovations, using my position to gain access to him. We have evidence, Victoria said, sliding a folder across the coffee table. Emails, messages, photographs. My father opened it, his expression darkening as he flipped through pages of what appeared to be explicit messages from me to Nathan, mixed with photos taken at angles that made innocent moments look compromising. I recognized some of the messages, but they had been edited, words added or removed to change their meaning entirely. I never wrote those things, I protested. Those messages have been altered. Victoria continued, as if I had not spoken. Nathan felt sorry for her, tried to let her down gently. But when the company troubles began, she saw an opportunity for blackmail, threatening to go public with false claims if he did not pay her. That is absolutely untrue, I exclaimed. I never blackmailed anyone. Victoria turned to my parents, her expression a masterpiece of practiced concern. I understand this is difficult to hear. No parent wants to believe their child could behave this way. But Nathan is not the first man she has targeted. We have documentation from her previous employment as well. You are lying, I said, my voice shaking. I have never worked anywhere else except summer jobs during college. This is my first professional position. The most concerning part, Victoria continued, ignoring me completely, is her current claim to be pregnant with Nathan's child. We have reason to believe she may have falsified medical records. The room went silent. My parents turned to stare at me in horror. You are pregnant, my mother whispered. I just had my first appointment today, I admitted, pulling the ultrasound from my purse with trembling hands. I was going to tell you tonight. My father took the paper, studying it before handing it to Victoria, who glanced at it dismissively. These are easily fabricated, she said. Nathan and I have been trying to start a family for over a year. He has a medical condition that makes conception difficult. The timing is certainly convenient for her. That is a lie, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. Nathan never mentioned any medical condition or that he was trying for a baby with someone else. Because he was with me. Victoria stood, smoothing her immaculate suit. I understand this is a lot to process. Nathan and I wanted to address this privately, out of respect for your family. We do not wish to pursue legal action if it can be avoided. After she left, the real nightmare began. My parents, people who had known me my entire life, chose to believe a stranger's elaborate lies over their own daughter's truth. How could you do this? My mother screamed, pacing the living room. Do you have any idea what this will do to our reputation? Your father's career? I did not do anything wrong, I insisted. Nathan and I were in a relationship. He never told me he was engaged. And this baby is definitely his. Stop lying, my father roared, his face contorted with anger I had never seen before. Victoria showed us everything. The pattern of behavior, the evidence. It is all fabricated. Why would you believe her over me? Because it makes sense, my mother said coldly. A man like Nathan Montgomery would never seriously date someone like you. What did you think would happen? That he would leave his suitable fiancée from a good family for an intern? Her words struck like physical blows. Someone like me? I am your daughter. While we argued, my mother disappeared upstairs. She returned with a small velvet box I recognized with a sinking heart. And what is this? She demanded, opening it to reveal the diamond earrings Nathan had given me for my birthday. Victoria mentioned expensive gifts. Gifts a junior employee could not possibly afford on her own. They were a birthday present, I explained. Not a payment for services. Enough. My father slammed his hand on the table. I want the truth, Olivia. Is there any possibility that what Victoria said is accurate? Have you been trying to trap Nathan Montgomery? No. I cried, tears streaming down my face. I love him. And he loved me, or at least I thought he did. And this baby is his, whether you believe me or not. Melissa finally spoke up from the corner. Mom, Dad, this is crazy. Olivia would never do the things that woman is accusing her of. You know her. My mother turned on Melissa with unexpected venom. Be quiet. You have always idolized your sister, without seeing her flaws. She has you completely fooled, too. She is telling the truth. Melissa insisted. Olivia is not a liar or a blackmailer. The slap echoed through the room. My mother stood over Melissa, her hand still raised, as my sister held her reddening cheek in shock. Diana, my father exclaimed, looking almost as shocked as Melissa. Something broke inside me at that moment. Not just my heart, but my faith in the unconditional love I had always taken for granted. My mother had struck my sister for defending me.
There was no coming back from that.
I will pack my things, I said quietly. That would be best, my father agreed, not meeting my eyes. Until you are ready to tell us the truth, I think you should go. I climbed the stairs to my childhood bedroom for the last time. The room still held remnants of my youth. Debate trophies, honor roll certificates, family photos from happier times. I pulled out a suitcase from under the bed and began filling it methodically, moving like a person underwater. Melissa slipped in to help me, her cheek still bearing the mark of our mother's hand. You cannot leave, she whispered frantically. Where will you go? I will figure it out, I assured her, though I had no idea what my next step would be. I will be okay. Let me come with you. I shook my head. You have school. and I cannot take care of both of us right now. But I promise I will stay in touch. We exchanged tearful hugs and whispered promises. I slipped her my spare phone charger with my new number written on a piece of paper tucked inside the cable wrap, knowing our parents might monitor her phone. Do not tell them where I am, even if you know, I warned. It is safer that way. The rain had started by the time I carried my suitcase downstairs. My parents stood in the living room, my father's arm around my mother's shoulders. They looked like strangers. When you are ready to admit what you have done and get help, you can come home, my father said stiffly. I paused at the door, one last desperate hope that they might change their minds. That parental love might overcome the poisonous lies Victoria had fed them. But my mother turned away, and my father's expression remained hard. Goodbye, I said simply, and stepped out into the storm. Sitting in my car, rain pounding on a roof, I placed a protective hand over my still flat stomach. It is just us now, I whispered to the tiny lives growing inside me. But I promise, I will keep you safe, no matter what. The first week after being thrown out was a blur of panic and improvisation. I slept in my car in different parking lots each night, using my gym membership to shower and change clothes. During the days, I sent out job applications by the dozen, but as news of the Montgomery innovation scandal spread, doors closed before I could even get interviews. "We will keep your resume on file," became the standard rejection, a polite way of saying my connection to the company made me radioactive. My savings, meant for a future apartment deposit, dwindled rapidly. I rationed food, focusing on nutrition for the pregnancy, while skipping meals when nausea made eating impossible anyway. I calculated and recalculated how long I could survive before homelessness became more than just sleeping in my car. The breaking point came exactly 9 days after leaving my parents' house. I was in the bathroom of a small coffee shop called Billionaire, done that when morning sickness hit with brutal force. Kneeling on the tile floor, retching miserably, I did not hear the door open. "Honey, are you all right in there?" a concerned voice called. I emerged from the stall to find an older woman with silver-streaked dark hair and kind eyes watching me with concern. "I am fine," I managed unconvincingly, rinsing my mouth at the sink. "Just a stomach bug." "That is not a stomach bug," she said gently. "That is morning sickness if I have ever seen it. And I have seen it 3 times with my own pregnancies and countless times with customers over 20 years running this place." Something about her matter-of-fact kindness broke through the walls I had built. Tears came suddenly and unstoppably. "Oh, sweetheart." The woman pulled me into a hug, seemingly unconcerned about her crisp apron. "Come sit down. Let me get you some ginger tea." Her name was Rebecca Martinez, and she owned the coffee shop. She led me to a small table in the back corner and disappeared briefly, returning with tea and plain toast. "Small sips," she instructed. "The ginger helps." Between sips of tea, my story spilled out. Not everything, but enough. Pregnant, abandoned by the father, kicked out by my parents, living in my car. Rebecca listened without judgment, occasionally nodding or murmuring sympathetic sounds. "Where is your car parked?" she asked when I finished. "The 24-hour grocery lot 2 blocks over. I move it every few hours so no one notices." Rebecca pulled a small notebook from her apron pocket and scribbled something. "This is my address. There is a studio apartment over my garage. Nothing fancy, but it has a bathroom and kitchenette. Previous tenant moved out last month, and I have not listed it yet." "I cannot accept that," I protested. "I do not have money for rent right now." "Who said anything about money?" Rebecca raised an eyebrow. "I need help around the shop. Morning shifts, since afternoons seem rough for you right now. You work for me, you stay in the apartment. Simple exchange. You do not even know me." Rebecca shrugged. "I know enough. I know what it looks like when someone is down on their luck, but not down on themselves. Besides, my mother always said be kind to pregnant women. They are doing the hardest work there is." That night, I slept on a real bed for the first time in over a week. The apartment was small but clean, with mismatched furniture that somehow created a cozy rather than chaotic feel. The kitchen consisted of a mini fridge, microwave, and 2-burner stove, but after living in my car, it felt luxurious. Working at the coffee shop proved to be my salvation in more ways than one. Rebecca adjusted my schedule around morning sickness, taught me to make every kind of coffee imaginable, and never asked questions when I sometimes disappeared to cry in the storage room. The regular customers became familiar faces, offering tips and conversation that helped anchor my days. With stable housing secured, I turned my focus to prenatal care. The community clinic offered services on a sliding scale, and the doctors there confirmed what I already knew. I was carrying twins. 2 tiny heartbeats flickered on the ultrasound screen, 2 little lives depending entirely on me. Twins are always high risk, the doctor explained. You will need more frequent monitoring than a single pregnancy. I nodded, mentally calculating how to fit additional appointments around work hours and how to afford the extra care on my meager income. In the quiet evenings alone in my apartment, I obsessively researched what had happened with Nathan and Montgomery Innovations. Business publications reported that Gerald Montgomery, Nathan's father, had orchestrated financial manipulations that artificially inflated the company's value. Nathan had disappeared from public view entirely, with rumors ranging from his complicity in the fraud to his escape to avoid prosecution. Victoria Sinclair gave several carefully crafted interviews, positioning herself as the loyal fiancée standing by her man during troubled times. Her performance was flawless, but I caught contradictions in her stories that made me question everything she had told my parents. One night, as I scrolled through yet another article about the scandal, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The Montgomery family protects its interests. Silence about the pregnancy is in everyone's best interest. My blood ran cold. Someone knew about the babies.
Someone was watching me.
I changed my phone number the next day, but the damage was done. The threatening message confirmed my suspicion that Gerald Montgomery, not Nathan, might be behind my current situation. As my belly grew, hiding the pregnancy became impossible. Rebecca was the first to openly acknowledge it, presenting me with a bag of maternity clothes her daughter had outgrown. These should fit for a few months, she said practically. Twins show earlier. The apartment building where I lived had 3 other units. My nearest neighbor, Sophia Wilson, was a night shift nurse who frequently checked on me when she came home in the mornings. When she learned about the twins, she began bringing prenatal vitamins and information packets from the hospital where she worked. Twin pregnancies need extra support, she explained, both medically and emotionally. With Rebecca's permission, I set up a small desk in the corner of my apartment and began taking on freelance graphic design projects. My degree and previous experience allowed me to create logos, business cards, and simple websites for local businesses. I worked during every spare moment, building a portfolio and saving every dollar possible for the baby's arrival. At 20 weeks, complications arose. My blood pressure spiked dangerously, and the doctor ordered bed rest. But I cannot stop working, I protested. I need the income. What you need is to keep those babies cooking longer, the doctor replied firmly. Preterm labor with twins is a serious risk. Rebecca refused to hear my concerns about the apartment or job. The apartment is yours for as long as you need it, she insisted. And I can hire temporary help at the shop. What happened next still moves me to tears when I remember it. Sophia rearranged her schedule to check on me daily. Rebecca brought meals and groceries. Other coffee shop regulars, learning of my situation, organized a rotation of visitors bringing books, movies, and conversation to break the monotony of bed rest. A community formed around me, built from strangers who became friends, then family. They brought secondhand baby items. 2 cribs that had seen better days, but were still sturdy, tiny clothes in neutral colors, a changing table rescued from someone's garage. My sister's twins outgrew these, one customer explained, delivering a box of baby bottles. They grow so fast you barely use anything. In the corner of my studio apartment, a nursery took shape. Simple, practical, filled with second-hand items given with first-rate generosity. Each flutter and kick from the twins strengthened my resolve. I would build a life for us somehow. Each small movement reminded me that I was never truly alone anymore. The contraction started at 35 weeks, 2 weeks earlier than my doctor had hoped, but not unexpected with twins. Sophia had just returned from her night shift when she found me doubled over in pain. "How far apart?" she asked calmly, switching instantly into nurse mode. "About 7 minutes," I gasped, "but getting stronger." She nodded, already gathering my hospital bag. Time to meet those babies. The labor lasted 20 grueling hours. Without family by my side, Sophia and Rebecca took turns holding my hand, wiping my forehead, and encouraging me through each contraction. The delivery room became a battlefield where I fought for my children with every ounce of strength I possessed. "One more push for baby A," the doctor urged. With a final, tremendous effort, my daughter entered the world, her angry cry the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Her brother followed 4 minutes later, slightly smaller but equally vocal about his arrival. "Emma and Ethan," I whispered, holding them both in my arms for the first time. Emma had a dusting of dark hair like mine, while Ethan was nearly bald with a birthmark behind his ear. Both had the same steel blue eyes I remembered so well from their father. In that moment, exhausted and overwhelmed, I made them a silent promise. They would never doubt they were loved. They would never question their worth. They would know their story, difficult parts included, but they would know it as a testament to strength, not shame. The euphoria of new motherhood collided harshly with reality when the hospital billing department discussed costs. Even with the clinic's reduced rates, the bills exceeded my insurance coverage by thousands. I signed payment plans with shaking hands, wondering how I would manage even the minimum payments while caring for newborn twins. 2 days after bringing the babies home to my tiny apartment, a package arrived. No return address, no delivery person to be found. Inside were premium diapers, organic formula, 2 top-of-the-line car seats still in their boxes, and an envelope. The envelope contained $10,000 in cash and savings bonds in the babies' names, along with a handwritten note. "The Montgomery legacy is more than scandal. Your children deserve their birthright. Eleanor Montgomery." I had never heard of Eleanor Montgomery. Research revealed she was Nathan's grandmother, the widow of the company's founder. Known for her philanthropy and independence from family politics, she had largely withdrawn from public life in recent years. A week later, a black town car arrived outside my apartment. The driver delivered a message. Eleanor Montgomery requested a meeting at her Lake Forest estate. Arranging childcare for newborn twins seemed impossible until Rebecca volunteered herself and her daughter to watch them. "You need answers," she said simply. "Go get them." Eleanor's estate was hidden behind wrought iron gates and a long, tree-lined drive. The mansion itself spoke of old money and understated elegance. I was shown to a sunroom where an elderly woman sat in a wheelchair, her white hair styled impeccably, her posture still commanding despite her frail appearance. "Olivia Reynolds," she said, her voice stronger than her body suggested. "Thank you for coming. Please sit down." Up close, I could see Nathan in her features. The same eyes, the same determined set of the jaw. "How did you find me?" I asked. "Marcus Phillips, Nathan's former assistant. He remained loyal to me after leaving the company. He mentioned a young woman Nathan had been seeing and your situation after the scandal broke. It took some time to locate you." She gestured to a folder on the table between us. "I have had private investigators confirm the children's paternity, though one look at their eyes would be evidence enough. They are Montgomerys." "Why now?" I asked. "Why reach out after all this time?" Eleanor's expression softened. "Because I only learned of your existence recently. Because what happened to you and to Nathan was orchestrated by my son Gerald, and I cannot allow that injustice to continue." Over the next hour, Eleanor filled in the missing pieces of the puzzle. Nathan had discovered his father's financial manipulations months earlier and threatened to expose him. Gerald, desperate to maintain control, had arranged the public relationship with Victoria to distract from company troubles. When Nathan refused to go along with the charade any longer, Gerald had taken more drastic measures. "Is Nathan?" I could not finish the question. "Alive?" "Yes." "In hiding?" "Also yes." Eleanor sighed heavily. He gathered evidence against his father and took it to federal investigators. Until charges are filed, he remains in a precarious position. He abandoned me. I said, the hurt's still raw. He left me pregnant and alone. Eleanor reached for my hand. He did not know about the pregnancy. Gerald made sure of that. And Nathan tried to contact you. But by then Victoria had already poisoned your family against you. Tears threatened, but I fought them back. What do you want from me? Nothing you do not wish to give. I would like to meet my great-grandchildren. I would like to help secure their future. And when it is safe, I believe Nathan deserves to know he has children. We negotiated boundaries that respected my independence while acknowledging the twins' heritage. Eleanor would provide financial support for their education and healthcare. I would maintain primary custody and decision-making authority. She would be part of their lives as great-grandmother Eleanor, with regular visits when my schedule allowed. As winter turned to spring, my online design business grew steadily. Eleanor's connections discreetly sent clients my way, allowing me to work from home while caring for the twins. By their 6th month, I had moved from Rebecca's garage apartment to a small but comfortable 2-bedroom condo. Emma and Ethan thrived, developing distinct personalities. Emma was bold and curious, always reaching for new objects and experiences. Ethan was observant and thoughtful, studying faces with intense concentration before breaking into heart-melting smiles. They became my purpose, my joy, my reason to push forward when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me. Melissa visited secretly whenever she could get away from our parents. She was studying at the Art Institute now, living in a dormitory that gave her more freedom. She adored her niece and nephew, bringing them tiny handmade stuffed animals and reading them stories in different voices that made them coo with delight. Mom and Dad never mention you, she confided during one visit. It is like they erased you from family photos. But I know they think about you. I have caught Mom looking at your old graduation picture when she thinks no one is watching. I nodded, the information causing a familiar ache that had dulled but never disappeared. As the twins approached their first birthday, Eleanor helped me plan a small celebration. Rebecca, Sophia, Melissa, and a few other friends gathered in my new home. We had cake, took photographs, and celebrated not just the baby's first year, but my survival and growth as well. Looking around at the gathering, I realized I had created a new kind of family, not bound by blood or obligation, but by choice and genuine care. It was different from what I had imagined for my children, but in many ways it was stronger. The breakthrough came unexpectedly, 18 months after the twins were born. My design business had been featured in a local magazine for entrepreneurs, complete with a photo of me in the small office space I had recently leased. The exposure brought new clients and a sense of professional validation I had craved since losing my position at Montgomery Innovations. I was meeting with a potential client when my assistant, a college student named Jasmine, interrupted with wide eyes. "There is someone here to see you," she whispered. "He is pretty insistent." Stepping into the reception area, I froze. A man stood by the window, his back to me. Taller and leaner than I remembered, hair longer and touched with premature gray at the temples. But even before he turned, I knew. Nathan. He faced me, those familiar blue eyes now matched by our children's. His expression held a storm of emotions: relief, fear, hope, regret. "Olivia," he said simply. "I finally found you." We moved to my private office, the air between us charged with unspoken questions. He looked different. The polished tech executive had been replaced by someone weathered, more substantial somehow. "I have been searching for you for months," he began. "Ever since it was safe to return." "Safe?" Nathan nodded. "The federal investigation is complete. My father was arrested yesterday, along with several board members. Victoria as well, for her role in the cover-up." The news felt surreal after so long imagining this moment. "Where have you been all this time?" "Gathering evidence. Working with the FBI to document the extent of the fraud." His hands twisted together. "I tried to contact you as soon as I realized what my father had done, but you had disappeared. Your family claimed not to know where you were." "They threw me out," I said bluntly. after Victoria visited them with her convenient evidence of my supposedly predatory behavior. Pain flashed across his face.
I am so sorry.
She worked for my father, not me. The engagement was his arrangement, part of a merger plan with Sinclair Banking. I ended it months before meeting you, but kept up public appearances at his insistence while negotiating the separation. When I threatened to expose his financial schemes, he weaponized Victoria against me. Against us. I studied him, searching for the truth in his expression. Why should I believe you now?
You should not, he said simply.
Not without proof. He placed a flash drive on the desk. This contains everything. The investigation files, my testimony, communications between my father and Victoria planning how to separate us. I am not asking for forgiveness, Olivia. Just a chance to explain. Before I could respond, he noticed the framed photograph on my desk. The twins on their first birthday, chocolate cake smeared across their smiling faces. Are they? His voice broke, unable to finish the question. Your children, Emma and Ethan. They turned 4 months ago. Nathan sank into the chair, hands trembling as he reached for the photograph. I have children? Twins. His eyes, when they met mine, were filled with tears. I never knew. I swear to you, I never knew. Your grandmother knew. She found me when they were newborns. Grandmother? Confusion crossed his face. She never said a word. She was respecting my wishes. I asked her not to tell you until I was ready. The conversation that followed lasted hours. Nathan explained his disappearance, the federal protection, the painstaking work of documenting his father's crimes. I told him about the pregnancy, my parents' betrayal, the community that had helped me survive. When we finally left my office, the sun was setting. Nathan asked to meet his children, a request I granted with caution. We agreed he would come to my home the following day. That night, I barely slept, my mind replaying our conversation. Did I believe him? Could I trust him? What role should he have in our children's lives? The twins' reaction to Nathan the next day made my heart ache. Ethan studied him with the same serious expression Nathan himself often wore. Emma, typically cautious with strangers, climbed onto his lap within minutes, patting his face with curious hands. They shared his eyes, his smile, mannerisms I had not realized were inherited until seeing them together. They are perfect, Nathan whispered, voice thick with emotion. Over the following weeks, Nathan proved his commitment through consistency and respect for my boundaries. He never presumed romantic reconciliation, focusing instead on establishing a relationship with his children. We developed a co-parenting schedule that allowed him regular visits while maintaining the stability of the twins' routine. The media coverage of Gerald Montgomery's arrest and the corporate fraud case was extensive. Victoria's role as his accomplice became public knowledge, her carefully cultivated image shattered by evidence of manipulation and deception. What I did not anticipate was how the scandal would affect my parents. My father's investment firm collapsed under the weight of its connection to Montgomery Innovations. Clients withdrew their accounts, colleagues distanced themselves, and the community's standing they had valued so highly evaporated overnight. They learned the truth about me and Nathan through news coverage that mentioned the existence of Montgomery heirs. A statement from Nathan's legal team confirmed he was committed to co-parenting with the mother of his children, Olivia Reynolds. 3 days after that statement appeared in the Chicago Tribune, they appeared at my door. My father looked aged beyond his years, my mother thin and subdued beside him. They stood on the porch, uncertainty replacing the conviction they had shown when throwing me out 2 years earlier. Olivia, my father began, his voice cracking. May we come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside silently. Inside, the twins were napping in their room. My parents stood awkwardly in the living room, taking in the evidence of the life I had built without them. Photos of the babies, books and toys neatly organized. The home office corner, where I ran my successful business. We saw the news, my mother said finally, about Nathan Montgomery, about the babies. Their names are Emma and Ethan, I replied. They're almost 16 months old. We were wrong, my father said, the words seeming physically painful for him to produce. So terribly wrong. That woman, Victoria, she lied about everything. I told you she was lying, I said, the old hurt rising. I begged you to believe me. Your daughter. Your family. We have lost everything, my mother whispered. The house, Robert's practice, our friends. But none of that matters compared to losing you. To never knowing our grandchildren. Part of me wanted to send them away, to let them feel a fraction of the abandonment I had experienced. But another part recognized the cost of holding on to that anger, how it would eventually poison the new life I had created. You chose to believe the worst about me, I said, my voice steady. You threw me out when I needed you most. That cannot be undone with an apology. We know, my father nodded, tears streaming down his weathered face. We do not deserve forgiveness. But please, if there is any way, any chance for us to know our grandchildren, to try to make amends. It will take time, I said after a long silence. And there will be boundaries. Clear, non-negotiable boundaries. I will not allow Emma and Ethan to experience the conditional love I grew up with. Anything, my mother agreed immediately. Whatever terms you set. As they left, I felt no triumph in their humbling, only a complicated mixture of grief for what was lost and cautious hope for what might be rebuilt on more honest foundations. Rebuilding trust is harder than breaking it. That was the first lesson I learned in therapy, a gift to myself when the twins turned 2. With a business that could now afford health insurance that covered mental health, I finally addressed the trauma of those devastating months when my world collapsed. Forgiveness is not about excusing what happened, my therapist explained during one session. It is about freeing yourself from carrying the weight of it forever. Those words guided my approach to my parents. I allowed supervised visits, watching as they awkwardly, then more confidently, built relationships with Emma and Ethan. My mother brought homemade applesauce the twins devoured. My father read the same stories repeatedly with inexhaustible patience. They were trying, genuinely trying, to be better grandparents than they had been parents. We were so focused on appearances, my mother admitted during a rare moment of vulnerability. What people would think. Our standing in the community. We forgot what actually mattered. With Nathan, the path forward was equally complex. His dedication to our children never wavered. He showed up consistently, learned their routines and preferences, and never used his wealth to overshadow my parenting. When Montgomery Innovations reorganized under new leadership, Nathan created an ethical technology company focused on accessibility solutions, occasionally consulting me on design elements. Melissa moved into an apartment near my condo to attend art school. She became the twins' favorite playmate, their faces lighting up whenever Auntie Mel appeared with new art projects or adventures. Through her, I slowly reconnected with extended family who had been kept in the dark about my situation. Eleanor Montgomery continued her quiet support, hosting Sunday lunches at her estate where the twins could run freely through gardens designed by generations of Montgomerys. She shared family stories, preserving heritage while acknowledging past mistakes. Family legacy is not just wealth or names, she told me once while watching Nathan push the twins on swings. It is also the courage to break harmful patterns. My business partnered with Nathan's new company on several projects, our professional rapport strengthening alongside our co-parenting relationship. We established holiday traditions that prioritized the children's joy over adult complications. Christmas mornings at my home, New Year celebrations at his apartment, birthdays shared with the extended community that had supported us. Rebecca and Sophia remained central figures in our lives. They had been there during the darkest times, and I made sure they were acknowledged as the family of choice that had sustained me. Their presence reminded the twins that family takes many forms, all equally valid. As Emma and Ethan's second birthday approached, I planned a gathering that represented our unique journey. The guest list included everyone who had played a role in our story: Rebecca and her family, Sophia, Melissa, Eleanor, my parents, Nathan, and friends who had supported us along the way. The day was bright and clear, my backyard decorated with balloons and streamers. The twins, now talking in expanding sentences and developing strong opinions about everything from foods to favorite books, moved confidently among the guests. Emma charmed everyone with dramatic storytelling, while Ethan observed and commented with surprising insights. During a quiet moment, my mother approached me by the refreshment table. "They are extraordinary children," she said, watching Emma try to teach my father a complicated clapping game. "You have done an amazing job with them, Olivia. All on your own." "Not entirely on my own," I corrected. "I had help, just not from where I expected it." She nodded, accepting the gentle rebuke. "I think about that night often. How differently things might have gone if we had trusted you." "We cannot change the past," I said, the therapy lessons emerging in my words. "We can only decide what we do with the present." Across the yard, Nathan was helping Ethan examine a caterpillar on a leaf, their identical expressions of concentration making my heart twist with complex emotions. He looked up, catching my gaze, and smiled tentatively. Later, as the party wound down and guests departed, Nathan stayed behind to help clean up. We worked in companionable silence until only Eleanor remained, dozed off in a lawn chair while the exhausted twins napped inside. "Thank you for today," Nathan said, tying off a bag of gift wrapping. "For letting me be part of it." "You are their father," I replied. "That will never change." "And what about us?" he asked carefully. "We have been co-parents, business associates, even friends of a sort. But we never talked about what else might be possible." I studied him in the fading afternoon light. The man before me was not the same one I had fallen for years ago. He was humbled by experience, strengthened by adversity, proven through consistent actions rather than words. "I am not the same person either," I said, voicing my thoughts. "The girl who fell for you died the night my parents threw me out. The woman I became had to be stronger, more cautious." "I understand if there is too much history between us," he said quietly. "History can be a foundation as well as a barrier," I replied. "I am not ready to call this anything yet. But I am open to possibilities, to seeing where time might lead us." His smile, relieved and hopeful, reminded me of Ethan's when discovering something new and wonderful. That evening, after everyone had gone and the twins were asleep in their beds, I sat on my porch swing thinking about the journey that had brought me here. From the desperate girl sobbing in her car to a woman with a thriving business, healthy children, and a reconstructed understanding of family. Being discarded had forced me to discover strength I never knew I possessed. The people who should have protected me had failed, but in that failure, I had found my own capacity to protect myself and my children. The betrayal that once seemed like an ending had become the painful beginning of a more authentic life. Forgiveness, I was learning, did not mean forgetting or excusing. It meant reclaiming my power from the past. It meant choosing what role others would play in my life based on who they proved themselves to be, not who they once were or who I wished they could be. As the porch swing rocked gently in the evening breeze, I felt something settle within me. Not perfect resolution, but peace with the imperfect, ongoing nature of healing. Have you ever had to rebuild trust with someone who deeply hurt you? How did you balance protecting yourself while giving them a second chance? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes our greatest strength emerges from our moments of greatest vulnerability. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember that your worth is never determined by those who failed to see it.